Dearly beloved, guess what we are gathered here today to discuss? More new fragrances. We have some hits here, we have some misses, and I can't wait to get into it. I'm coming right out of the gate. I'm coming right out of the gate with one of the most talked about fragrances, highly anticipated, and people are bugging out about this. They are either hating on it, smearing its name all over YouTube, or they're loving it and not understanding why everybody else can't stand it. It is Maison Margiela Afternoon Delight. Let me tell you what I think, like from a sociology perspective, happened with this. And I do have a background in sociology, friends, to speak of. This is a human psychology and group mentality thing that happens here. Don't get offended by what I'm about to say. These are just my personal observations and opinions. I think with fragrances like this, particularly in the gourmand category, that are so highly anticipated, where the ads make it look like it's going to be this amazing, edible, smell like a snack kind of perfume, people get their hopes way high up. I'm talking about 35,000 degree. Plane is at full, what do they call it? It's called maximum altitude. I had to go look it up because I forgot. People's expectations are at maximum altitude with these new gourmand releases. And I think kind of what happens is what happens with when people are addicted to substances. They need more and more and more to get the same kind of high. So I think that is kind of what happens with these new gourmand releases, where people have a lot of them, they wear them all the time, and for something to wow them, the next thing on the market has to be like crack to them. It has to be amazing for them to appreciate it. So that's my little controversial opinion of the day. So that said, what do I think about Afternoon Delight? First of all, what an interesting name and what it potentially means, but we won't go there right now. The brand says that it's supposed to smell like stepping into a pastry shop in Paris. I don't know if they said Paris. I'm making that part up. In the afternoon and smelling pastries and all of the yummy cookies and things like that. Primary notes that are featured from the brand are vanilla. Was it Madeleine? Madeleine Accord, like a cookie, which is like a spongy cookie, and sandalwood. Now, what does this fragrance smell like to me? I think this smells a little bit like vanilla extract. And I have to say, it kind of smells like imitation vanilla extract, which isn't necessarily a horrible, bad thing, but it's definitely not that amazing, blow your mind, blow your skirt up, gourmand experience that I think people were expecting to have. Now, some people have said that this smells like Play-Doh. Other people have said that this smells too woody to them. Other people complain about the sandalwood in the fragrance. I mean, there's all kinds of complaints about this fragrance. It doesn't last, it doesn't project, it doesn't smell sweet, it doesn't smell like anything that they expected. However, you have another hand of people that really love this fragrance. They appreciate the pleasantness of this. They like that it's a little bit lighter wearing and easygoing day-to-day fragrance, that they can, white t-shirt and jeans kind of gourmand fragrance. It reminds me a lot of all of the hype that was around Vanilla Sex from Tom Ford when that was about to be released. The name was controversial, the price was controversial, and then people smelled that and were a little bit disappointed that it wasn't this amazing, blow your mind vanilla experience that they were waiting for. I like Vanilla Sex. I think it was a fine fragrance. Maybe not worth that price tag. I don't know. Jury's still out on that. I'm waiting for it to show up on a real big sale somewhere and I might snag a bottle of that. And I kind of feel like it's the same for this. I don't dislike this fragrance. I also don't love it, but I do like it. It is in the like category. So my expectations of this were not at maximum altitude. I learned that lesson a while back. I had temperate expectations. Moderate expectations of this. And I think it's a fine fragrance. That said, I would absolutely say to people, get your own nose on this and make up your own mind, friends, before you listen to what all of us out here in Fragcom have to say about it. Because man, the opinions are all over the place. And she has been dragged through the YouTube streets, just like Burberry Goddess Intense has been dragged through the YouTube streets. Yeah, what is the expression? Drag for filth? Poor Afternoon Delight has been put through the paces. It's not that bad. It's actually a pretty decent vanilla, but it does have a little bit of imitation vanilla extract smell. So that's what I have to say about this. If I had to rate this on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give this somewhere between, I'll give it like a 6-ish, 6.5 type of deal. So I will go through my travel spray happily. Now, an unexpected win. I tried this fragrance kind of like on a whim. It was one of those decants I kind of threw into my order and was like, let's give it a little sniff. This is La French from, La French from Byron Parfums. I was not expecting much from this fragrance because I hadn't heard about it, but I realized that it was new. At least I think it's new. And so I included it in this video. If it's not new, forgive me. And I have to tell you, this one, was such a pleasant surprise. I'm actually interested in this fragrance and may get a travel spray or maybe a bigger decant or something and play with it some more. And this is one of those fragrances you definitely have to spray on skin. I have once again sacrificed my arms for perfume science to bring you the latest and greatest in fragrance reviews. This is fruity and sexy. It has like this deep, spicy muskiness and fruitiness to it, but it's also just so nicely rounded out. You know how sometimes there are musk fragrances that have like some scratchy edges or some edginess to them? This is not edgy at all. There isn't anything sort of rough around the edges of it. It is a very smooth, well-rounded fragrance, like a fragrance that has been filed down to its most beautiful, shiny essence. This is lovely. Nice, deep, juicy fruitiness, but like a perfumey fruitiness. I don't get fruit bowl. I get the kind of fruit that shows up in a really elegant old school fragrance, a nice, deep, soft muskiness with maybe even some woody tones. And there's some spiciness to this fragrance that I think makes this especially lovely and sexy and alluring. This is one of those kind of like come hither fragrances when you have it on. Let me know your experiences with this if you've tried it. It comes in a blue bottle. I wish it came in something like a plum colored or maybe even like a deep red bottle, or something like a deep magenta, something that was a little bit more feminine than the color blue is typically associated with, right? Because I think that bottle influences our psychology, the way that we perceive a fragrance. And I have no sense of the longevity of the fragrances that I'm telling you about today, with the exception of a couple. Like, let's see here, Afternoon Delight, I would say, is going to give you a good half-day wear, at least at the beginning, because it has so much vanilla in it. It might be one of those fragrances that matures in a way that makes it last longer, but it's no slouch, but it is a soft-wearing fragrance. I don't have a sense of La French. I haven't worn it all day. I've just tested it here and there and really enjoyed the experience and found it to be mature and elegant and worth a sniff, like a good date night or special occasion kind of fragrance. Then we're going to go back into gourmand territory with another pretty anticipated fragrance. I think a lot of folks are curious about this. I certainly was. It's from Jousset, and this is La Tarte Tatin. Is that pronunciation correct? Let me know if it is not. I can't even spray this on myself again. Hold on. I forgot to rate La French for you. La French, I would say, is probably, I'm going to give it an 8. Probably an 8. Really, really delightful. La Tarte Tatin. Woo! I'm going to say that this is probably a 4 or 5. And here's why. This fragrance is pungent. It is so strong when you spray it out. And I mean, it knocks you out. My husband, I sprayed this. We were sitting in bed watching a movie. And I do this thing where I put like a blanket out because I don't want my regular blanket to smell like my sample. So I put out a blanket that I'm going to wash right away. And then I spray on top of that. I spray my skin. I sprayed this thing out, one spray. My husband, who was several feet away from me, was like, "Oh, no, that is an absolute no." And it was a light spray, but that has how strong this thing was, that it was like, whew, it was like a nuclear bomb wave that came to his nose and knocked him out. And I kind of have to agree. This is a very, very strong, heavily gourmand fragrance. I have to laugh because I read a comment that said that it smells like pancakes or deep syrup in the dry down. For me, this smells a lot like the white barn side of Bath and Body Works. You know, you go into that side and smell the candles in the fall when they have all of the heavy maple syrup, super sweet fall scents. You know, like the stroopwafel smells and all of that. This smelled exactly like the inside of one of those candles. It's almost too literal. If you like that, definitely check this out. I just found it crazy overpowering. For me, I don't have the travel spray here, but I have the box. I would rather go for something like Nest Vanilla Bourbon that is a little bit more of an interpretation of a fall gourmand scent. This is lovely, and I'm looking at getting a full bottle of this. La Tarte Tatin is way too literal of a gourmand. It has this really deep, sticky caramel, and it does smell like pancake syrup to me, especially on the blotter. On skin, I will say, when this calms down deep into the dry down, it does get sweeter and more tolerable and just like a really lovely, the kind of caramel that you get in your Starbucks drink. But from the opening through the mid, before that deep dry down, and that's a long time because this thing will love you a long time, okay? And on your skin, it's straight up thick maple syrup scent. And candles, lots and lots of deep, overly powerful candles, the 3-wick candles that just fill up the room in a way where you're just like nauseated. So this is going to be a no for me. I can't. This is way, way too much. I have some kerosene fragrances that are kind of like this, and I struggle with those even, but I wear those because I find beauty in those. This one, too much for me. I can't do that. Let me know your thoughts if you like it. I'd be curious to hear if you fell in love with La Tarte Tatin. I'm going to move on to a fragrance that has me pretty confused because this one is getting a lot of hype and I'm very confused by this fragrance. It's from Dora. It's Ylop. Before I go on, please drop in the comments if you love this fragrance and tell me what it smells like to you. I have to say, when this first opens, it just offends me. There's something really sharp and chemically in the opening, probably for like the first 15 minutes, where I actually strongly dislike this fragrance and get angry that anyone else likes it. I have that moment of like, am I just an alien that experiences fragrances completely different than everyone else? Because I highly dislike this one. However, to be fair, as this dries down, I can see how people interpret this as, for me, it's like, people call it a tea fragrance, an apricot tea fragrance. I feel like it's like tea and woodiness. I get very little, any fruity nuance, very little apricot or anything of that nature in this fragrance. I do get a tea accord, which is nice. I mean, I like a tea fragrance just fine. And I get this woodiness in it, but I almost also get this like Play-Doh-esque texture to this as it dries down that I don't know. I just don't understand the hype for this one. If I had to give it a score, again, this would be like a 4 as well. I don't understand this fragrance, and that's okay. I don't have to. We don't have to love every fragrance. This is one that I'm actually going to put in my retry pile because I've started that video series. I'm going to record another one of those soon, another one of those episodes soon, because I have my little fragrances lined up. I dislike this enough that I'm going to put it into that pile to retry again. In fact, I'm going to also put La Tarte Tatin in that same pile, and we'll come back to these in another one of those like retry videos. But for now, both of those are fails for me. Let me know your thoughts. Let's go back into gourmand territory in a fragrance that I nearly blind purchased. And I have to say, I would not have been upset if this had come into my house. This is the Cirque du Soleil L'Eau de Parfum. I love Cirque du Soleil. Can we pause there and say that I've seen a lot of the shows in Vegas, and I've seen a few shows here in the Richmond area. The ones that are off of Las Vegas, like out of Las Vegas, have left a lot to be desired, but the ones that are actually in Las Vegas proper, I've seen I've seen Ka, and I'm forgetting the names of the other ones, 2 other ones, and they are just magnificent shows. So I have this fondness for Cirque du Soleil naturally. I saw the one that is in Orlando too, like near Disney World. That's a great show too. This fragrance, it opens up as people have described. It's like hot popcorn with caramel drizzled over it. It's immediate, it's undeniable, and it's so comforting of a scent if you like that. It's a lot like What About Pop from the House of Oud, like that, but even deeper and heavier on the sticky, caramelly kinds of notes. And you also smell like candied apples in the background and some other just sort of gourmand textures and notes and things like that. It's a very fluffy, airy fragrance. And as it dries down, it maintains a little bit of that popcorniness and a little bit of that caramelly-ness, but it becomes mostly like a deep, thick vanilla fragrance. The scent is a thick vanilla fragrance. The texture still feels light and airy. And so I do like this. I wish that the opening of this stayed throughout the fragrance, and if it did, because it's such a sort of unique scent to capture. And if you like caramel, hot caramel buttered popcorn, I would probably give this an 8 if it stayed like that throughout. As it stands and the way that it dries down, it gets softer on skin, a little bit more of like a skin scent. Very nice, pleasant fragrance. I don't have any issues with this. I would probably give this somewhere between a 6 and a 7. I don't know that I'll purchase a full bottle of this. If I see it on sale somewhere, I will absolutely consider it. And if you're interested in those kinds of notes that I described and don't mind that it settles down into just a nice vanilla, definitely check this out. The bottle is beautiful. The box presentation of it is really interesting and unique. And so I definitely give this a thumbs up. Really interesting scent experience, especially on the opening. Nice. I also recently tried Orange Marmalade by Jo Malone. And straight out of the gate, I don't care for this. This is not a fragrance I'm interested in. And my score for it would probably be something like a 5-ish. If you like a bitter orange scent, this might be for you. If you've ever had actual, I was going to say morangelade, orange marmalade, and opened it, and it's not super sweet, but it definitely has like this bitterness to it. It resembles that. This is supposed to be themed around Paddington Bear. I don't have any particular love or hate for Paddington Bear, so that like doesn't do anything for me the way that the association with Cirque du Soleil does. But I found this to be a little bit too bitter and kind of actually masculine leaning for me. It never ended up getting sweet, and so I didn't enjoy it for that. I don't want to smell like bitter orange, and so this is kind of like a pass for me. Let me know if you've tried orange marmalade and what you think, and if you disagree with me. I feel like it has this sort of, the other thing about this is when I sprayed it, it had like this sort of bleach accord. Is there such a thing as a bleach accord? I smelled something bleachy and chemically in the background behind the orange bitterness, and I just couldn't get over that. So this is going to be a pretty hard pass for me. I'm sorry if you like this and if that annoys you to hear, but it just wasn't for me. The next fragrance is Peach's Revenge from Sarah Baker. I have to tell you, when I first tried this, I had such a strong averse reaction. It repulsed me so much that I was mad that I even ordered a sample of it to try. I was like, wow, what is happening with this fragrance? So that lasts like a burst. I would say the first 5 to 10 seconds of the experience is like, woo, super pungent, very almost like a sharp, chemically peach smell that bothered the hell out of me. However, as it dries down some, it does get a little bit sweeter and some of the nuances of the fragrance start to come out. I want to share some of the notes that stood out to me. Definitely peach, guava. Guava has this very distinctive, juicy smell. It's like a really condensed, strong, juicy scent to me. I've eaten guava before, grew up around guava. I know exactly what it smells like in juice form. I'm talking about like guava juice. There's also cardamom and ginger in the fragrance. So it does have this sort of zestiness to it. Cinnamon bark, absolutely. Vanilla, caramel, amber. So it's a strong, almost like thick, you know how you have those like liqueurs that are sugary that you add into your mix. And before you add them in, they're too sweet and too concentrated and too thick on their own to enjoy. You have to put them into a mixed drink to enjoy them properly. I feel like there's a little bit of that sense here in this fragrance. Now, some of you love this. I've heard a lot of people rave about this. I don't think this is a fragrance that I personally want to smell like. I don't enjoy the peachy tones in here. I do like the spicy tones. I like the cinnamon. I like the gingeriness of it, the cardamom. Those aspects I like, but I don't care for the peach in here at all. So this is going to be a no for me. If you like peach and you like the idea of a thick, spicy peach with some guava touches, vanilla in the base, something thick, really thick smelling fragrance, give this a sniff. They are sending me also some other samples from Sarah Baker that I'm going to try out and hope that I enjoy, but this was a miss. If I like this fragrance, I would probably score it like an 8. If I was like a peach lover, but because I'm not, for me personally, this is probably like a 5-ish. So then I did finally get a decant of Amouage Guidance, the 46 Extrait version. This is beautiful. I am a guidance lover. People hate guidance or they love it. I love guidance. And I think this is just like guidance, except smoother, as people have described. I can totally see that. It's like the edges of the regular guidance are blurred out and it's a little bit softer and easier to tolerate than the regular guidance. The regular guidance, especially when you spray it on, is really strong, punch you in the face fragrance if you smell it right from either the nozzle, the atomizer rather, or right on your skin. That is a fragrance that has to waft through the air for people to enjoy it. The sandalwood, the hazelnut, there's so many beautiful aspects of that fragrance that are hard to describe. You have to get your nose on it. I would say this Amouage Guidance 46 Extrait smells really great up close and far away, but it is the Guidance DNA with like a softer touch. Okay, it's like that one has been sweetened up a little bit and rounded out. And I think it's a winner. And when I find this on sale, I'm going to get a bottle. The bottle is gorgeous. That ombre effect on the bottle is just beautiful. And I think it's wonderful. And I would probably, I think at least initially, keep both of them. It's really good. It's really good. But you have to be a guidance lover to enjoy the 46 Extrait. I am not of the mindset that if you didn't like the original guidance that you would like this. No. I think you have to like the original guidance to even entertain the thought of the 46 Extrait version. And I'm going to score this probably like a 9 for the beauty that it is. Next, we're back to Phlur. I'm having a moment with Phlur, the brand. And I said I would come back to you all in a previous video and tell you my thoughts on Soft Spot, which is at the time of filming this, not available on other retail sites except for the Phlur site as I understand it. It's not like on Sephora to purchase yet. Now, Soft Spot, when you first spray it on, is so delicate and inviting. It's almost like it has this like creamy background to it, some muskiness, some soft florals. It is, exactly as the name would imply, a soft spot. It's like you nuzzled into someone's neck, and it starts off for me rather feminine. Here's the thing with Soft Spot that's interesting to note, and I don't have any feelings one way or the other about this. It settles down a little bit more woody and a little bit more masculine. I believe it's sandalwood in the fragrance. I haven't looked up the notes to confirm that. But as it dries down, it gives me a feeling of sensuous from Estee Lauder and actually sensuous nude. Both of those, like if you combine those together in a one fragrance, if you smell those, it starts to give me a feeling of that. It's the beginning of this and the mid that I really enjoy, but in the deep dry down, it gets into that Estee Lauder sensuous territory, which is also beautiful. I used to own both of those fragrances. Someone purchased them from me on Mercari. I hope that if you're out there, I hope you love both of those fragrances. They have such a soft, sensuous, beautifulness to them. And so does this. But because this reminds me so much of those, I'm having a hard time in my mind distinguishing the fragrances. So this is another one that I want to come back to. Right now, it is a thumbs up, but I don't know that I want a bottle of it because of the association with those fragrances and because of the fact that it morphs and changes into something a little bit more masculine than maybe I was anticipating. And because I feel like it does a little bit of a switcheroo on me. At least I've only tried this three times. A switcheroo where it starts off soft and feminine and inviting and cozy and it's still soft and inviting, but it gets a little bit more masculine. And so anyway, I'd like to try this again, but that's my thoughts on it. As it stands, I would probably score it about a 7-ish of a fragrance. And then I'm done. We get into this one that continues to sell out. I promised myself I wasn't going to buy any dang body sprays, but FOMO got me. This one continues to sell out on the Phlur website, and it was back in stock, and you can only get one bottle. So it gives you the impression that you better snatch that bottle or you're going to miss out. Yes, it's all the psychology, and I fell for it, and I'm glad that I did. It's from Phlur, and it's heavy cream. So I broke my body mist rule and purchased this thing. It is listed as a gourmand. They have the notes on the back, the notes that they highlight, some that stand out to me. This does have a very sort of marshmallowy texture. So I'm going to highlight that from the top notes. It is very sweet. Almost sickly sweet in some ways, but not quite there yet. And there's marshmallow, there's coconut cream in the middle that stands out. Bretalide, which I'm just going to interpret to be a little bit like a musky scent. Vanilla mousse. I don't get any of the salted caramel. To me, this doesn't smell caramelly. Well, maybe a little bit. It's kind of like the caramel that's in this fragrance, if you've tried it, Madeira. That kind of sort of soft, perfumey caramel. And then whipped cream. Vanilla mousse and whipped cream. This definitely has a very soft, fluffy texture. If you smell it on blotter, it will smell a little bit more chemically. If you put it on skin, it meshes really nicely and softly and sweetly, at least with my skin chemistry. I think it smells really fluffy and sweet and inviting. It does give a little bit of a body mist kind of thing. Like, could this be a Bath and Body Works spray? It sure could. It sure could. Does it smell good? It sure does. Does it smell a little bit on the youthful side? Perhaps even a little bit juvenile, potentially? But dang, I really like this. So this is a winner. I don't think it smells like cream. Like if you think about half and half or anything even creamier, no. But it does smell whipped. It does smell sweet. It does smell marshmallowy a little bit. It smells sugary with a touch of perfuminess on top of that. And so this is a winner, and it did last quite a long time. I actually did a full wear on this, and it lasts quite a long time. So friends, that is my video for you today. I would love to hear your thoughts on these fragrances. Do you agree or disagree with me on these? Your opinions are welcome. I promise you will not offend me in the comments. Just keep it classy and keep it cute, and we can have a chat down there about whatever your thoughts are. Thanks so much for joining me as we continue to sample the deluge of new fragrances out on the market, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, friends.